All right, hello, Westgate Child Ministry workers. This is a video tutorial for you to teach you how to use our child check-in system. You will have permanent access to this video so you can watch it and rewatch it as many times as you want. But we are going to ask that you watch it one time each year and communicate that to us so that way we can know that everyone is up to date and up to speed on this system. All right, so when you open up the tablet, and I have one here right in front of me, it may be difficult to see with the glare, but you'll open on the screen, and then on the, whoops, what is this? When you open up the iPad or the tablet, you'll see on the main screen this little logo right here. When you tap on that, it will bring up a screen that looks exactly like what you see here in the video. Now, my credentials autofill because I'm on my computer, but you see when I click on this first field how my credentials come up as an option to autofill. On the tablet, that option will be the login credentials for the tablet. So I'm going to type those in real quick here to get us in, and when you sign in it should bring you to this page, and this is the main hub where you're going to do everything that you need to do for check-in. And if for some reason you get away from this page or this page does not come up, to get to this page you simply click on this up here. We call this the hamburger because it kind of looks like a hamburger. You click on the hamburger and you click on check-in, and that will bring you right back to this screen. So if you wind up, never mind. If you wind up somewhere else, hamburger, check-in, and you'll be right back to this screen. Now, there's a few things that you'll need to do from this screen. First, let's talk about check-in. So we have two kiosks that our parents can use to check their children in. And myself or someone else will set those up, log those in, put them in self-check-in mode, and so parents can check their children in when they drop them off. 9 times out of 10, the parent is going to check the child in when they drop them off. But if a parent, for whatever reason, does not check in their child, then you as the teacher are responsible to do that. And so we'll talk through that. But if you find that a certain parent is consistently not checking their child in, or they miss 2 or 3 weeks, just let me know and I'll have a conversation with that parent and just say, hey, let me remind you how to use this kiosk so that way you can help our teachers by checking your children in before you drop them off. So you as the teacher, when you walk in the room, the first thing you want to do, or one of the first things you want to do, is verify that everyone in your room has been checked in. And if someone in your room has not been checked in, you will need to check them in. So to see who's in your room, you're going to click on this tab called Rooms, and you're going to find the room that corresponds to you. Now, most of these rooms we don't use, but all these up here, with the exception of teens, we use. So let's say you're in the nursery. You're going to click on Nursery, and it's going to bring up a list of everyone that is checked into that room. And if there's someone that's in your room that has not been checked in, then you need to check them in. Now, you can either click this button to go back to that screen, or you can click Hamburger, check in, and it will bring you right back to this screen. The easiest way to check in a child for you would be to search by name. So I'll use my kids, and it'll bring up my kids, and no matter which one of my kids you click on, it's going to bring up my entire family. And you can see I have 2 sample services in here. The only time that which child you click on makes a difference is if you have 2 families with the same last name, like Smith or Jones or Walker, something that's pretty common. All right, so this will bring up my family, and you can see neither of my children are checked in. So to check in my children, the first thing that I want to do is make sure I select the appropriate room. Now, in Abigail's case, the only room that she has access to is the nursery, and so that's easy. But in Ellie's case, she has access to a few different rooms. And so I would want to select the service that I'm checking her, or the room, that I'm checking her into, which in this case would be Sunday school, and then I select the appropriate services. Now, let's talk about when we want to check children in for multiple services. If a child is being checked into us and is staying with us for multiple services, we want to check that child into every service that we are going to maintain them for before we hand them back to our parents. So, in the case of nursery, when we check Abigail into the nursery, she stays there for Sunday school and Sunday morning, and so I want to check her in for both of those. All right. In Ellie's case, because she is in this age bracket, her Sunday school class goes directly into children's church. And so, again, I would want to check her in. My little thing is in the way here. For both of these services. And so, once I've done that, I come up and I click, well, check in all is fine. All right. Looks like they're checked in. Oh, and then here's what I do. Then I click here, and they are checked in. I'm sorry, I'm doing this on my computer. It will look a little bit different on the iPad or on the tablet. On the self check-in screen, it will say finish up at the top. But if you're checking them in, you simply hit that arrow to go back to this screen, or you can click hamburger and check in, and that will go back. All right, and then I come down to this room, and I can show you that Abigail has been checked into the nursery for both rooms, and Ellie has been checked into Sunday school for both rooms. And so I can come back here, but let's say I am a Myers, all right? And this is going to bring up the whole family. Now, Jack, I want to check him in for both services because he's still in the nursery. But someone like Henry, because he's actually supposed to be in this group, because he's in this group, his class gets dismissed to Sunday school from the morning service. And so if I'm Henry's parents, I'm only checking him in for Sunday school. And if Henry's parents forget to check him in, and I as the teacher am checking him in, I am only going to check him in for Sunday school. I mentioned earlier that 9 times out of 10, the parent is going to check in the child. This class would be the 10th time, that 10th example. For our 1st through 3rd Sunday school class, they come back to the service. They get to their parents, and then they get dismissed from the servants back to junior church. And so if you are a junior church teacher in that 1st through 3rd grade class, when you collect your class and get to the classroom, you would need to go in and you would need to check in each of these children for that junior church hour. And so that's the only exception for check-in. All other circumstances, parents should be checking in their children. And then, of course, for our 4th through 6th grade Sunday school class, they don't have junior church as an option. And so their parents would only be checking them in to, I'll use Emma here as an example. Their parents would only check them in for this service. They would not check them in for a morning worship hour because they don't have Sundays or they don't have junior church for that time. All right. And so if I go back here to check in, I can show you that Emma is checked into this class and Henry is checked into this class. All right. And so that's how you handle check-in. Parents should be checking their children in. Nursery, parents will check their children in for both services. K3 through K5, parents will check their children in for both services. 1st through 3rd, parents will check them in for Sunday school, and then the junior church teacher will check them in when they get to the classroom after having been dismissed from the service. And then our 4th through 6th grade class, of course, does not have junior church, so parents will only be checking them in for the Sunday school hour. All right, so let's talk about contacting parents and special instructions. There will be times where you will need to contact a parent. All right, one example would be, if somebody's child is just really having a hard day and you need the parents for something. The easiest way to contact parents is to come in to the room that you're in. So let's say you're in the nursery, all right, because that's where my kids are. All right, so let's say you're in the nursery and Abigail is just really having a hard time and you need one of us. You come to your room, you find the student, and you click this tab that says SMS Parent. All right, it's going to bring up both Kate and I. You can choose to select one or both of us. We would automatically both be selected. And we have this custom message, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But you would want to erase that message and say, Abby needs you in the nursery. And then you would hit send right down here. And that's going to send that message to whoever you have selected, which in this case is both of us. All right, but I'm not going to send it just yet. All right, and so obviously you may say, well, I have your number. I could just text you directly. That is true, you could, but we don't want you to have to be responsible for data charges and messaging charges and all of that. And so really it would just be better if everyone used this system, so that way all the messages are coming from us as opposed to you, and that would just be better to handle that way. All right, now let's talk about special instructions. There are going to be times, I'm going to come back here, there are going to be times where a parent needs to leave you special instructions. Now, for our nursery ministries, I believe they have a sheet where they can write down like service specific instructions, like, so-and-so needs a diaper change at this time and a bottle at this time. And so those sort of week to week instructions may vary, but it's going to be possible that parents are going to have more long-term care instructions, and so they may leave those for you, and so you as the teacher need to be aware that those may be there, and it would be beneficial for you to check from time to time, although hopefully your parents would tell you, hey, I left some special instructions for you. But to do that, you would again select your room. In this case, I'm going to do this one. And if you want to see if there are any special instructions, you want to click on the child's name. And so it's going to bring up all these fields. Please don't mess with any of these fields. You're going to see her birthday, kindergarten, all this kind of stuff. But down here, I wish Elvanto would let me put this at the top, but they won't, and so that's why it's at the bottom. But you'll see here a field called allergies, and you'll see I have other selected. So you can view down here, and it says that Ellie is sensitive to red food dye. Now, that's not something that she struggles with a ton, but it is something that we at least would like you all to be aware of. It's not near as much of an issue now as it was when she was an infant, but all the same, we've got that in there. And so if we have a new worker that's just playing with the system, they can click on her name, scroll down and see, hey, Ellie's sensitive to red food dye, so I at least should be aware of that. All right? And so that's something that you at least want to be aware that could be there. Although, like I said, most week-specific instructions would be given to you on a sheet of paper in the nursery. All right, so that's how to contact parents, and that's also special instructions. One more time when you may choose to contact parents, actually one more time when you do want to contact parents, is if a parent forgets to check in their child. So let's say, let's go Alsup, because that starts with an A. All right, let's say that Mrs. Alsup forgets to check in Nate. Then what you're going to do is you're going to select the appropriate room for the appropriate service, and once you check them in, this SMS tab pops up. You click on the SMS tab, you see both parents come up, and you see we already have this custom message. This is the time when you would want to use this custom message and just click send. And that's going to let them know, hey, I checked in your child. And that, for one, that will serve as a little bit of a passive-aggressive, hey, you forgot to do this, I took care of it for you, no worries, next time, please do it. But also for your guests, if you're checking in a guest, you're always going to want to send them that text because of this security code. And so we'll talk about those security codes under checkout. So let's talk about checkout. I mentioned that your parents, 9 times out of 10, are going to check in their children. And so most of the time, you're not going to need to worry about checking in children. But you will always have to check out your children. So parents check them in when they hand them to us, and we check them out when we hand them back to their parents. And so every child worker that is serving in a ministry is going to have to know how to do checkout, because that's something that you as the child worker are going to be responsible for. And so there's a couple different ways that you can do it. Under your room, so I will go to nursery. All right, there will be this whole list here of kids. All right, all the kids that are checked in here. Now, what I can do is as parents are picking up their children, I can go ahead and check out each individual child as they are checked out. But I think you and I both know that all the parents come at once, and that can be a little difficult. And so you can do that if you want, and that is absolutely fine. Or what you can do is once all of your children have been picked up and you know that everyone is where they need to be, you can use this tab up at the top that says check out all. And when you click that tab, it is going to check everyone out of your room. All right, now let's talk about security codes. Most of the time, you're not going to use a security code, but you do need to know how to use it because there will be times where you may need to use it. So let's say I'll use nursery. Let's say Johnny Visitor comes and drops off his daughter Susie for Sunday school. And so child worker A receives Susie and meets Johnny Visitor. All right. So sorry, someone's at my door. So Johnny Visitor comes and drops off his daughter Susie to child worker A. All right. Child worker A has met Johnny Visitor, and so she knows what Susie's dad looks like. But when the switch is made from Sunday school to the morning service, child worker B comes in, and they have not met Johnny Visitor. And so when Johnny Visitor comes and says, hey, I'm Susie's dad, child worker B has never met him. Now, obviously she chooses to believe that Johnny Visitor is Susie's dad, but we still need to verify that. And so when child worker A checks in Susie Visitor, what she's going to do is she's going to send that SMS text that says Susie Visitor is checked into this room. The person checking them out needs this code. So when child worker B is there and Johnny Visitor says, hey, I'm here to check out my child Susie, what child worker B is going to say is, hey, can you provide me with that security code that you were given when you checked in Susie? And he's going to pull out his phone and say, yes, the code is ABC123. And child worker B is going to look here under the security code of Susie Visitor and see ABC123, and she's going to say, great, so nice to meet you, here's your daughter. And so most times you're not going to use that because most times you're going to recognize the person who is picking up their child, but you will need that code for visitors. And another situation where you may need that code is, let's say one of our church members is sick or is running late, or their kid is going for a sleepover at somebody else's house, and so someone that you recognize but is not the parent of your child is picking them up. In that circumstance, you must ask them to provide the code. The only person that may pick up their child without a security code is the parents of the child. All right? Parents of the child. The only other exception would be an adult sibling who is still living in the home. All right. So a parent or an adult sibling living in the home may pick up the children, but nobody else without providing a security code. So if my mother, and this has happened before, so if my mother is visiting with us at church and she says, hey, I'll go pick up the code, I'm going to go pick up the girls, I'm going to give her my code. I'm going to say, hey, the nursery worker needs to ask you for this code, and so you need to be willing to provide it because you are picking up my children and you are not me. And so you're going to want to ask for the code when you don't personally recognize the person that is picking up the child, or if someone other than the parents or an adult family or an adult sibling living in the home is picking up the child. All right. So if one of my friends is picking up my kids, they have to provide the code even if you know them. All right, and so that's how to contact parents. That's special instructions. That's checkout and handoff with security codes. Now let's talk about new people. All right, and so my goal, I'm going to come back here to the hamburger. I'm going to click check-in. So my goal is that you would not have to do this. I try to do this as much as I can. I'm working with Brian Cassida and the greeters to teach them how to do this so that they, on the greeter end, can take care of this. but you still need to know how to do this because you may have to do it. And that's the best I can say. And so there may come a time where a member of our church brings a new person with them. Maybe that they've just had a baby and they're checking their baby into the nursery for the first time. It could be, a member of our church who's bringing a grandchild, or a niece or a nephew, or a neighbor. So there may be times where you need to add a person to an existing member of our church. All right, and so I'm going to teach you how to do that. But then there's also the possibility that you may have a new family who has never been to our church and is therefore not in our system, who is bringing a child. And so you would need to know how to create a new family and add the children to that family. It sounds like it would be a complicated process, but it's actually not. So let me walk you through it. Over here, we have the hamburger, and then over here we have, we'll just call it the 3 dots. All right, and so to add a new person to an existing member of our church, you're going to click on the 3 dots, and you're going to add person or family. All right, and you would do that regardless of what you're doing. But it brings up this screen, and what you want to do first is you want to add a new person to an existing family. So we'll just use my family. So let's say Kate and I have, in a couple years or whatever, we have another baby. All right, so you want to add that baby to our family. And so you're going to click on either Kate or me, it doesn't matter which. And now you're going to add the new person. All right, so let's say we have a son and we name him Test. All right, and so Test Melton is born. He's a child. Let's say he's born January 1st. January, this one, 1st of 2024. All right. And so obviously that would put him nursery preschool. And you see my phone number is already there. Don't worry about the email address. You click save, and you will see it automatically brings him up with my family. I must have forgotten to put something in. And the rooms would be available once all that information is filled in. All right, and so that's how you would add a new person to an existing family. It's very easy. 3 dots, add person, search by name, and then you fill out the pertinent information. All right, but let's say you need to add a new family altogether. Well, you would do the same thing. You would click on the 3 dots, you would click on add person or family, but instead of adding a new person to an existing family, you're going to want to add the whole new family. And this one is a little more complicated. This is the one that I'm really hoping that between me and the greeters, we would be able to take care of for you. But you still need to know how to do it because you may have to do it from time to time. You'll click on add new family. All right, that's going to come up with this form. Now, you don't want to add them to a chia. You want to add them to visitors and new people. That should be automatically selected on the tablets, but if it's not, you want to add them to visitors and new people. Then you're going to add the family last name. So let's say their last name is Sample. All right, and so you would put their last name, and now here you have the option. Sorry, I have a lot of autofill options. You have the option to add an email address, a mobile number, and a phone number, like a landline. What's important for you to note is that anything that you put in these 3 fields is going to auto-populate the same fields on every single member of the family. And so I would caution you against doing that. You can, but I would caution you against it. Rather, I would just add visitor new people and then add the last name, and then move down and do all of this information on the individual members. And so the first family member that you want to fill out is the primary contact, whether that's mom, whether that's dad, or whether that's both. And so let's say the first family member is dad, and his name is Jim Bob. So you're going to put in Jim Bob. He's the primary contact. Now, he's not a child. We're not trying to find rooms for him, and so you don't need to worry about date of birth or school grade. But what you do need is you need to have his mobile number. Why? Because when you check his children in, you're going to text him, and if you need him later on, you need to be able to text him. And so you absolutely need to have a primary contact phone number. So we'll just say his number is 864-555-5555. Now, do I need an email address? That would be beneficial because that gives us the option to email him about upcoming events, thank him for bringing his family, that sort of thing. But if he's a visitor, chances are he's going to put that piece of information on a visitor card. And so while you are welcome to collect his email address, it's not absolutely essential. The phone number is absolutely essential. The email address is not absolutely essential. And so you've got the first person, you've got the primary contact, you've got dad, and you've got his phone number. Then you're going to hit plus, and you're going to fill out the next family member. Now, let's say mom is there too. Well, we want to get mom, right? And so we can either put mom in as a primary contact or we can put mom in as a spouse. It really doesn't matter. But mom's name is mom. All right, so we're going to put in mom. Again, we don't need to worry about her date of birth. We don't need to worry about her school grade, but we absolutely need to have her mobile number. So we'll say her mobile number is 864-555-5556. All right, and so you're going to put that in. And now you need to put in the kids. And so you're going to do the first kid and the kid's name. Okay, Aspen. Fine. Kid's name is Aspen. Now, you need a date of birth and you need a school grade. Why do you need those two pieces of information? Because Elvanto is going to use these two pieces of information to figure out which rooms that child belongs to. And so we'll say this child was born on this date. That makes them 6 years old as of like 2 days ago or a few days ago. So that's going to put them in the first grade. All right, so you can do date of birth and school grade. Now let's say there's another child, and this child's name is Nicholas. All right, and this child was born on this day. I don't know why it's autofilling these, but it is. So this child is 4. And so that's going to put him in the nursery preschool school grade. And let's say there's a third child. His name is, oh, I don't get any more options. All right, his name is Tony. And Tony was born January the 1st of 2012. All right, so that makes him 11, which means he's in 6th grade. All right, and once you filled out all that information, before you hit save, there's one more thing you need to do, and that is the family security code. Now, one thing that I really don't like about Elvanto is I have enabled what we call family security codes, where every member of that family will share a single security code. So rather than me having to remember what Abby's code is and what Ellie's code is and what all my future children's codes are, I have the option to have one code for all of my kids. And I think, honestly, that's the best option. What I don't like about Elvanto is that it does not automatically generate a singular family code. So right now, if I hit save, it's going to take me to the check-in screen, but each of my children are going to have a unique security code, and so I would have to text the parents each of those individual security codes. I don't like that. I think that's stupid. And so what we want to do is we want to create a family security code. I wish Elvanto would do it for us, but it won't, and so we're going to have to do it. And so you need to create a 6-digit family code. All right, here's what I recommend. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't bother me that much, but whatever it is, you need to make sure you communicate it to your parents. Here's what I recommend. Now, this family, their last name is Sample. So here's what I recommend you do. SF. That stands for Sample Family. All right. If your last name is Miller, do MF, Miller Family. If your last name is Thompson, TF, Thompson Family. All right. But that's what I would recommend you do. And then I recommend you pick 4 numbers that are going to be easily rememberable to the family. And so I recommend you choose one of the dates that they've put in. So, for example, their oldest child here is Tony, and he was born on January 1st of 2012. So do 1/1/12. So you've got the Sample family, January the 1st of 2012. That's pretty easy to remember. And so you text the parents that, but then they know, all right, my code is SF1112. And that's Sample family, and that's Tony's birthday. All right, and that's pretty easy to remember. And so then you're going to hit save, and it's going to automatically save the sample family with all 3 of their kids, and it's going to automatically give them access to all the rooms that pertain to them. You can see that here. And then when I check in this family, you can see that code pops up. Whoops. I tell you what, let me just do this. Let me just do check in all. All right, so that's going to check in all of them for every service. For Tony, that would not be the proper thing, but just for sake of this tutorial, that's what I did. And then when I come back here and I click on rooms and I click on, let's say, this room, there's Nate, Emma, and Tony that we've checked in. And of course, he's not supposed to be checked in for this service, or this service, I mean, but we did it anyways. All right. And so those are the basics. That's how you log in. That's how you check in children. I've told you how and when to check children in and which services. I've told you how to contact parents. I've told you how to check for special instructions. We've talked over checkout and security codes, and we've talked over new people. Oh, there's one thing that I did not talk about. Let's talk about that real quick. For our handoff, so when we do handoff where one teacher is handing off her class to another teacher, it's going to be a little bit different. And so nursery, really you don't have to do anything because you're staying in the same room. You're not really going anywhere. So there's really no need for handoff there. But for this class, because the Sunday school teacher is handing them off to a junior church teacher, it's going to be a little bit different. So here's what we need to do. All right. So when the junior church teacher for this group comes in, here's what she's going to do, or he. All right. So let's say, so Ellie's going to be in that class. So I'm going to do a search for Ellie. She's going to come up. Here's what I'm going to do. All right. I need to switch her from the Sunday school room to the junior church room. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to Ellie. I'm not going to worry about Abby, not to mention the fact that she's checked out, but I'm not going to worry about Abby. I'm only going to worry about Ellie. I'm going to select the room that I am moving her to. And I select that room, and you will see it comes up here, and it says room change successful. Now, because I am checking her, because I'm moving her to the children's church room, she's done with Sunday school. And so I can go ahead and I can check her out of Sunday school. And so for each child that's being moved from Sunday school to junior church, you as the teacher are going to need to go in, move that child to your room, and check them out of their Sunday school room. And then if we come over here and we go to rooms and we go down here, you can see Ellie is in this room, but only for this service. And so again, let me come back here. What you're going to do is you're going to search for the child's name. You're going to move them. Let's say they were in this room. You're going to move them from this room to this room and check them out of Sunday school. All right. I rambled a little bit. I apologize. I'm not the best tutorial video recorder. I could do this 8 times to get it perfect, but it takes me 30 minutes each time. So if you have any questions or you're confused about anything, please don't hesitate to email me. I want you to ask. I want you to use this. I would love to have everyone using this properly at 100% efficiency by Christmas. That is the goal. And so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I want you to ask because I want you to know, because I want you to use this correctly. This video will be accessible to you permanently, and so feel free to pause it, go back, rewatch it as many times as you need. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.